Hi, welcome back to Cambridge Inside Out. We'll continue our discussion of vital issues affecting our city.
We're still here.
We're still here.
Yeah.
We just finished talking, or showed those wonderful slides of the Volpe site.
And the MIT. This was the MIT presentation on the Volpe site, and they promised that within a couple month and a half, 2 months, they'll be having more and more. I think as more
I wanted to go, but I couldn't
fleshed
make
out.
those. Yeah.
Eventually, they'll have to come through to the city with zoning. By the way,
will require rezoning?
Absolutely. The thing is, right now, as a federal site, it essentially is exempt.
Oh,
so part of why the city council was trying to rush to get some zoning put into place for it was that it basically doesn't really have anything.
I see.
So
the 4 acres for the Volpe Center is untouchable.
It was a very problematic chicken and egg thing where because before the city knew who the developer was going to be, before they knew what the full range of constraints were, they were then supposedly trying to invent, doing some gazing into the crystal ball to say what the appropriate zoning is. But if you zoned it in such a way that the total economic potential was such that it was impossible for any developer to actually meet the exchange agreement, then you will have wasted all of your time to accomplish nothing.
Whatever way it happened.
So when MIT was chosen as a developer, really that's what starts the legitimate process.
Okay.
Because now MIT is the one you're going to be dealing with. So when you're talking about what the zoning should be, you can talk with them and say, well, what's the financial constraints? How is this actually going to work out here? What do we want to get from you? What do you want to get from us? And it actually, they can
so I'm going to ask a naive question because I don't know the answer. So MIT is in charge, but who actually is the developer? I mean, they're the developer, but who do they hire to do? They hire the person?
There were at least 3 or 4 different architects named as people designing the buildings. I think Elkis meant.
So they've already chosen those. As a developer, they choose who they want.
They could change their minds, but the thing is,
they're in control of that.
They are in control of that, so they're already.
So they already have some names.
They're trying to get their ducks in the row and get some preliminary designs.
Well, somebody did those photos, right, or the pictures. So I guess
exactly, right.
All right.
But then. At some point, then they have to hire contractors to build the buildings and do all.
Who probably work with the architect. I mean, it's all like people that are familiar with.
So all the city can do is basically lay out the guidelines via zoning about what you can and can't do. What's a special.
And we don't put any money into it. Is that right?
We potentially,
in terms of street work, maybe.
The way it often works, and there's no set rule about this, is that if there's going to be a development, it's going to put in. 1.7 million square feet.
That's what it said. Yeah.
R&D and commercial space.
Well,
there may be some need for improved infrastructure, electrical infrastructure, which is mainly between. That's not the city. That's between them and EverSource.
Right.
And the representative from EverSource was at the meeting because I know him. He's a friend of mine.
Okay.
And then there was the sewers, water supply.
That's the city.
Yeah, now I think that we're probably okay, but there may be some need for added investment.
And new pathways, pedestrian ways. That's the city.
But the thing is that oftentimes the developer actually covers those costs as part of the agreement.
Sense. Okay.
So we'll see how it shakes out, But it'll be very interesting, and certainly compared to what's there now, anything's going to be an improvement, honestly. So anyway, that's one thing that's going on there. So more to come.
Good.
Now, you were at a meeting.
Yes, I went to the Roundtable, which was on February 14th, which is one of the reasons I wanted to.
Yeah, I did find there was some curiosity where usually it's the city council that schedules a roundtable with the school committee members coming to the city council roundtable. Yeah. Apparently, this was sort of unusual in that it was technically a school committee roundtable with the city councilors invited.
Which was not televised, which apparently made a.
Apparently somebody got a little bummed about that.
But I guess it is on a YouTube by John Hart.
I've probably addressed this before. I was around back in 1999 when they were first but borrowing from, I believe, Santa Monica, this idea of doing roundtables.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole idea of having roundtables was to have an informal discussion where people were not on camera, where they were just could speak freely. To me, when anybody comes and insists on televising it or recording it and putting it on YouTube, they're basically saying screw you to that intention.
Well, they did it to have a record, I guess.
You can have a record. right?
Well, how can you have a record if it's not audio?
Well, people are taking minutes of the meetings, and they're all reporters are invited, and they can write down their impressions,
not
whatever.
a transcript. But anyway, okay, I understand that.
It doesn't have to be. I mean, it was meant to be much more of an informal thing, and I actually thought it was a good idea, and I still respect the concept of roundtable meetings as
well, then they have to call
meetings.
them then an executive session or something, because they're not going to,
Well,
as long as they're roundtables.
well, what happened in the intervening years is that the open meeting law got revised.
Yeah.
That basically gave it, and actually, in my opinion, should be revised again, because I think they made those regulations far too broadly. But so anyway, so they decided some counselor or counselors got into a bit of a row.
Yeah, about it should be like we do at the city count, whatever. So it went beyond that. That kind of got worked over. It was a little uncomfortable, but they got to the issues, and I guess Salem presented, and
so what was the crux of the meeting?
They are going to get 10.2 million more this year. Louis DePasquale presented, and that I guess what I didn't realize, a lot of we have increasing enrollment in our schools.
Right.
The school is going to surpass CRLS 2000 this year, which is
so we've rebounded quite a bit.
Well, at least at that level. I don't know about on the elementary level, but the point is the numbers are going up, which is interesting. Right. So that is causing budget concerns as well as transportation. Because and also the development issue, which I hadn't even thought about when you have all these developments with inclusion, that these kids have to be sent to different schools because usually they're at the other end of whatever. But
you talk about the out of school placements?
No, that's a whole separate thing. That was brought up is that a budget driver? Some people were defending it, saying that we have a very it's very careful and generous, and basically there was an issue of we spent $27,000 and per kid, what are we getting for that? So Emily,
that's an average, and it's largely driven by the fact that
we do have one of the highest in the state.
Right, it is, but it's an average. But the reason why it's one of the reasons.
What do you mean average? It's what it is.
It's an average, meaning there are for some of the children in the Cambridge Public School system. They are difficult to place. They have to go to special
So you're saying that all filters into that figure?
There are some students who actually, on a per capita basis, require in excess of $100,000 per student.
Okay, so...
And
right, so I guess that was somewhat explaining it, yeah.
Yeah, so the thing is, it's not...
But also, we have higher pensions, we have higher benefits than a lot of other schools.
True.
Different things.
Right,
so,
and that sort of...
Yeah, but that is true. That came up, you're right, about...
Right. I think Cambridge has a bit of a reputation as having pretty generous policies in terms of out-of-school placements and services and support and whatever. So there are a lot of students with individual education plans, IEPs, in the Cambridge system because I've heard of people who actually move to Cambridge because they know that.
And it's not income-based. In other words, if you're
for a public school, it's not income-based. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty costly
it's an issue. Yeah.
So they're going to up the budget for the school department by a significant amount.
I think it was something like it's definitely more than it was last year. It sounds like it's like 10 million.
My understanding is they were actually holding back the budget.
An extra 10.2 million this year goes to the school budget. An extra 10. So they had designated 6 point something, and then they had some extra money. So it's all going there. Right.
And some of this is driven by the fact that the enrollments are certainly up.
And
so
transportation.
Teachers and transportation.
They said Emily, controlled choice does add to transportation costs because you get to pick the school and all that.
So it's not just neighborhood schools.
Right.
Right.
And I don't know. There was, I guess there's, they want all free meals, free lunches.
That was one thing at a previous roundtable that I was at.
That's a big
they
driver.
said, well, if a significant number of students are already receiving free and reduced lunch, then why not just give it to everybody?
Yeah, right. And
of course, I think part of that also means that you wouldn't need a cashier if you just given it free. So you would lay off those workers. And then
not according to Leland Chung. You know what he said?
This is politics then.
Did you hear this?
No, I did not.
He said you would free them up, and then they'd have more time to engage with the kids.
No, they would actually have more time to go looking for a new job.
Yeah.
But then again, this is government, and what often happens in government is they said we can't lay off anybody. So if you have the potential for cost savings by actually not having to pay for the cashiers, they would probably just give them another job doing something else.
Well, if they had, that's interesting.
Or just managing the lunchrooms, or whatever they call it.
So I'm glad to hear that Kathleen Kelly is. You say it's going to be guest next week because she is the co-chair of the finance committee. For
so we're hoping to have Kathleen on this program next week.
And she
said she's okay, but I've got to get back to her on that.
Yeah.
So we can talk much more specifically about budget-related matters. Yes. She's the co-chair. Is Richard Harding still the other co-chair?
Yes,
right.
Both of them.
We'll also extended an invitation to two of the upcoming city council candidates, the new emerging city council candidates. And I hope to see them on here soon.
And one other thing that came up on both the committee and it was, I guess there's a real push to have world languages at the younger years, but apparently there's also a push by teachers to not implement that either right now or.
It sounds like a replay of last year.
I'd like Kathleen Kelly to kind of expand on that if she could, because I didn't quite understand that.
That was a can that was getting kicked down the road.
Exactly.
Some people were demanding it.
But some teachers feel like to implement that now. So I don't know the whole story. So.
Back when I was in grade school, and if I could avoid
elementary, we didn't have any languages.
And if they tried to say you were going to require you to get Spanish or something, I said, is there any way around that?
Now I wish I had.
Can I just take more math classes?
Yeah.
That's how it would work for me. Anyway,
all right, so there's more on that. So pay attention. Go to the school committee. Well, if you can ever find it on the site, they have a very poor site. The schools, I have to say.
Yeah.
Where are we going now?
I was going to go see where I forget where I have the emerging candidates.
Oh, there you go.
Here we go.
Here we go. Okay.
All right, maybe we can get to that right in here.
All right.
So again, there has been some changes. We do like to do a little politics here occasionally.
Okay. Where's the change? Oh yeah, where's the little red there?
Yeah. So I don't know how visible it is, but it should be visible enough.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure Tim Toomey is going to be seeking re-election for city council now.
You're still pretty. I thought you were pretty sure.
I think we're good at this resolution. I'm pretty sure only because he did change his status from state rep to city council. If he was leaving, he would have just left it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he'll.
But he technically doesn't have to until June 1st.
Nobody's really. Let's be clear. Nobody's actually a candidate until
they actually file papers,
and that doesn't happen until end of July.
So this is all just registering for money.
Yeah. So the thing is, the people who I have in like green up top there are ones who are pretty clearly candidates. And there actually are some changes. Paul Toner, who used to be the head of the Cambridge Teachers Association, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
And it actually really reached quite a level of prominence in teaching circles and was really kind of well known as being a guy you could work with to hammer out compromises between the union. So Paul Toner, he says he's in. He's going to be running for city council this year.
Not school committee, interesting.
Right. Well, I mean, he was actually running for a national level office in education. So, he's very interesting.
But why hasn't he registered then if he's definitely
he's doing it it's a matter of paperwork, that's all.
Okay.
Honestly, in past years, nobody would have registered with the Office of Campaign and Political Finance this soon. So it's really quite unusual that they're doing it at all. Right. We already knew about Alana Mallon, who's declared candidate, Ronald Benjamin, who was on this program a while back.
Right.
Sean Tierney has said he's definitely running. Born and
what's
bred in
his
Cambridge.
thing again? Sean?
He works actually at the state level, I think, in housing.
Did he go to the high school?
I believe. He's a Cambridge guy.
Okay.
And lives on Prince Street currently, 02139, and we hope to have him on the program soon.
Okay.
Quentin Zondervan is definitely running and raising money.
He's actively fundraising.
Well, I started putting that in there because I was looking at some of the campaign finance reports.
Yeah.
And you can see people who are actually raising money by the thousands as opposed to by the tens.
Wow.
So he's one of them who was actively raising money. The other ones really weren't so much raising a lot of money just yet. And I don't know. I'm going to probably screw up the spelling on Vatsady Sivanche.
Oh, you mean the pronunciation or the spelling?
Yeah, I do not know the.
Okay.
It's an Asian person who lives on Kirkland Street.
Okay.
I believe is married to somebody who has an affiliation with Harvard.
Okay.
Don't know anything really about that candidate or too many of the other ones.
Did register.
But of all the other ones who had registered with the Office of Campaign and Political Finance as, the ones you see listed in purple there.
Yeah.
That's the one on the top is the one who's actually been raising money most actively so far. I imagine Sumbul Siddiqui, if I pronounce that correctly.
Is that a man or a woman?
Woman who just showed up as a candidate a week or so ago. But I believe was actually on the student school committee at one point, if I'm not mistaken. And I could get that wrong.
The students, so it was a student
yes,
rep
it was
on
actively grew out of this Cambridge system. So
we had that long ago because she's 29.
Right. So I hope I got that right. But I actually took off a few other names of the perennial candidates who I'm pretty sure are not running.
Oh.
So I weeded them out a little bit. I can put him back easily enough. I don't. Yeah, he might, but his campaign account is officially closed. Account is officially closed.
All right.
So if they reopen him, well, then maybe they'll reappear.
Sure.
So anyway, this just to give people a bit of a sense of.
The only new person under school committee is Will MacArthur.
Yes, so far. I imagine that'll change. I know of at least one other person who may run, but I'm not at liberty to divulge that person's name just yet.
No, don't do that. Right.
Right.
Okay.
And I bet you before all is said and done, we'll have some others.
Okay.
One person who actually I did not include here was Paul Mahoney, who was a candidate 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Who still has a significant amount of money in an account. He's a former Cambridge firefighter.
Right.
He might actually decide to be on the ballot again.
For which office?
City Council.
City Council, okay.
He's actually related to David Marr. And I actually, when I was doing some little what-if scenarios a while back, of what would happen if I think it was speculation, would Leland Chung run again if he took a job somewhere or whatever, and it turned out if Leland had left, he would have been replaced by Dennis Benzan.
Oh, right.
And then if David Marr subsequently left office, he would have been replaced by Paul Mahoney.
Speaking of Dennis Benzan, so we still no word on that.
I'm likely to say I think he will probably be a candidate.
Wow.
But there was speculation because he also was involved in getting a business started here.
Right.
The one that's taken over was it the Moxa space?
Oh, and that's already
right
open.
next to
Is
us.
it opened yet? Something's going on.
Something's going on here. But anyway, so we'll see. But anyway, it's happening. It's definitely an election year, and things are definitely trending in that direction.
So anything that happened at the last city council meeting?
Yeah, so moving on from the politics of it all. And by the way, I'm sure there's some dark horse candidates who are going to decide to run, and we're going to go. We'll go. Oh wow, look at this, right?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. The field is actually starting to take shape, and we'll see. Now there was a city council meeting last Monday on the 13th that we didn't really speak to because we weren't here last week.
Yeah.
But there were some interesting things that are worth noting about that meeting. One thing, just to get right off, it was that the Central Square restoration petition, zoning petition, is moving along. They'd had its hearing, its second hearing at the Ordinance Committee. The report came to the council on February 13th, and they passed it to a second reading. So it's now in the queue for ordination at the February 28th meeting, which is this coming Monday.
The February 28th is, what do you mean for ordination? So it doesn't have to go back to the ordinance committee?
No, it was reported out.
All right.
And then passed to a second reading, so it's in the queue. Past the second meeting, it gets publicly advertised that this is the votes up, so,
So the 28th would be next Monday.
Yep. Yeah. And by all reports, it's very hard to imagine. Honestly, I will be surprised if anybody votes against it, and if anybody votes against it, I'll have to ask them why. Because
I think it's going to be...
It met pretty much everybody's desires. It actually ended up with the support of people on all sides of the political spectrum.
You could have one vote against it.
It's possible, but
it just needs 6, right?
It just needs 6. Yeah. It's probably going to get 7, 8, or even 9. Yeah. And I think it would be
nice to be unanimous.
It would be a nice statement to say that let's just start moving on it. This is not in any way an extreme petition at all.
It's nothing's fixed. I mean, everything's going to be a little nuanced.
I think you'll see a few one-story buildings that could fill out and actually reach several stories within. There are no height increases, by the way. It allows some things to happen that can't happen right now. And I think it's the right thing to do, and we think we're moving in the right direction. So anyway, look for that. It's coming Monday for ordination. I think it would be wonderful. let's see. Oh yeah, I always like to point this. Back for years when Ken Reeves was on the city council, he would always there would always be an order. I think it was from from his at least one of the councilor, basically wishing Councilor Reeves a happy birthday, because his birthday I think was on February 8th, and. But then there would always be an order from Councilor Reeves, like declaring the entire month of February to be something, and it was almost like a running gag about it's time to celebrate Ken's birthday month, right? So
it
anyway,
happens to be African American.
Small thing, yeah. It's Black History Month too as well, right? So Councilor Toomey dutifully puts in the wishing Ken Reeves a happy birthday. So we all wish Ken Reeves a happy birthday. One of the most significant items on the agenda for that meeting was actually when it was not on the agenda originally, but that was because they rushed it because of the snow closure on the Friday before. And then they had kind of late additions. So there was some reports from the law department and from the community development department relating to the inclusionary zoning petition, the city council petition, which is now going through the process. It's before the ordinance committee. So they'd asked for certain kinds of information.
Right.
And so there was actually the revised language, pretty much if you include all the amendments and whatever, the revised language was all there, laid before the council. And I thought most significantly was a opinion from the law department, city solicitor Nancy Glowa, about this sort of a ticklish issue about planned unit developments, PUDs, and projects that were part of planned unit developments that have already received their special permits.
Right.
So they are fully permitted to proceed, even if they don't have an occupancy permit because the buildings aren't yet built. So now what happens if midstream the city council decides to change the inclusionary zoning requirement from a nominal 15%, which is sometimes as little as an 11.6% inclusionary requirement, and they crank it up to 20%, which is what is now proposed.
Right.
Is that the big debate was, and it really became, it's been an ongoing debate, is well, can we then require buildings that are not yet built to then meet this 20% inclusionary requirement? I think the law is abundantly clear about this, and I think this is
unless they ask for some kind of amendment that they're not liable for
basically
that, right?
The permit was already granted and a deal's a deal, and what people do need to understand is that there's a lot of financing arrangements so that you basically get your financing in place based on what the building potential actually is. If the city comes around and and basically does a bait and switch and suddenly makes it so that you can't, by requiring a lot more of it becomes no longer financially feasible.
But how long do they get to build it? Because I think that was sort of the issue.
It depends on the planned unit development, and sometimes there's often a much longer horizon time-wise than in ordinary developments, because in a planned unit development there's generally multiple buildings going to be built, and they're not all going to get built at once. Sometimes you might get one a year, one every 2 or 3 years. Usually more like on that scale. So if you have an area like North Point, which is huge, right? It's the old rail yards. They actually might have an excess of 20, now it might have been as much as 27-year time frame for the construction. So they were permitted, and 13 years have gone, but there's still something like 14 years left that are, and they're operating under that special permit. So there's a lot of residential development going in there, and they were subject to the current 15% nominal inclusionary rate. So the question is, can you force them to do 20? I think the law says clearly, no, you can't force them to do it. But what does sometimes happen, and I've seen it happen many times, is that a developer comes in from their planned unit development, and they say, well, we want to make a change. We're seeking an amendment.
Then they get subject to the...
Not necessarily. It depends. They make distinctions between minor amendments, major amendments. If you've decided that you want to change the color of the tile,
that's different,
right? Or if you've decided that instead of having an office, you want to put in a grocery store, right? Things that actually have nothing to do with the residential part of the development, then I would argue that for amendments like that, that does not call
You would
into
argue,
question.
or is that what the law said?
I think the law is actually pretty clear, and the legal city solicitor's opinion was quite clear about this. So now, on the other hand, if you come back and you said, well, we've decided that instead of building this building with 400 units of housing, we would like to make it
that's a big change.
We want to change this in some substantial way.
Right.
And they say, well, if you do that, then we're going to have to play by the new rules. So that's what you would call a major amendment that for which that would be completely
So where do
appropriate.
we have these PUDs?
Plenty of developments there. Budgets are operating around Kendall. There have actually been a few, I think.
Some that are completed.
University Park, Cambridgeport was a planned unit
Right. But
development.
I'm just saying, do we have, what's out there that hasn't been developed yet that's a PUD?
North Point is probably the biggest of them, but there are several others. Councilor Carlone actually asked for more detail. Actually, there was some material in the
it would be
council
good to
agenda
know,
about
like
that.
what's been done, what's going to be done.
what is completed, what's yet to
So
come.
he asked for that, and who's going to report back on that?
It'll come back to the
Planning
ordinance.
board,
It's going to the next ordinance committee, which is on the 28th of February, if you're interested in this issue.
Wait, the 28th
of
is
February.
Tuesday.
Yes, this is coming, right.
Yeah, it'd be a week from
That's
today.
right.
So where is that held?
Probably
it's
the
an
Sullivan Chamber.
Oh, so it's the ordinance. Okay.
Yeah, it's part
Oh, I
of
think I
the
read
ordinance
that, but I
committee.
think it's at 3:00. It is.
Yeah,
I remember that.
it's either 3 or 3:30. I can't
But it's
remember
before
which.
we do our show. I know
Exactly.
that. Okay.
All right. So anyway, so that's what's going on here.
3.
I think there was at least one city councilor who was arguing, pretty much trying to make this, I thought it was really kind of out of line, basically saying if no matter what they come in here, and you know they're going to come here, we're going to insist that they have to meet the 20%. And I thought, well, that's pretty confiscatory.
I didn't really hear that. I heard that.
No. He said, they'll be back. It's inevitable. Right?
Whatever.
And it's not inevitable, and there is a distinction between minor and major amendments, and there are things that affect the residential development and things that do not. But if you want to come in because you want to raise the height of the curbs in a planned unit development, that is absolutely no way to justify.
It would be nice though to know where they are and what state each of them is at.
Yeah, the information is
that
good.
was being asked for.
So it's funny because that was an item that wasn't even on the original agenda. It ended up
it's
being the most
interesting.
substantial part of the
The
entire meeting on the
28th is
13th.
okay, that's good to know.
Right. So anyway, we're pretty much out of time in
Yeah.
our second half here.
So next week will be a city council meeting, and then
that's right.
report
And
back on our mini bond thing, which you only have to the 23rd. So that's actually this.
hurry up and do it. Yep, their sale ends 23rd. So anyway, see you next week on Cambridge
Bye.
Inside Out.